In today's video, I'm going to be talking about different ways to remove hair, specifically for women. So we're going to talk about dermaplaning, waxing, electrolysis, and laser hair removal. If you have questions or comments about hair removal, please pop them in the comment section below. We'll be sure to answer them. Hey, I'm Becky Wilkins. I've been a registered nurse for over 30 years now. And for the last 25 years, I've been building my business here, External Affairs Medical Spas. Our specialty is aesthetic treatments as well as regenerative medicine. And our goal is to bring you all the latest information on these topics. Please like and subscribe and share our videos, and be sure to put comments down below if you have questions about any procedures. First of all, I want to explain that there are different types of hair on the body. When it comes to the face specifically, we have those fine vellus hairs. Those are those little peach fuzz ones. They're very thin. When you compare them to a regular terminal hair, they're just fine and fuzzy. Whereas terminal hairs, typically for women, tend to start to appear in through here. They become coarser and darker. So it's really important to understand the difference between those hairs when you're choosing a method for hair removal. I'm going to start off talking about dermaplaning. That's sort of a new popular service where it's a skin treatment that also involves removal of the hair. So the technicians are using a very fine blade, and they're actually removing fine vellus hair as well as dead skin. So the skin feels like silk afterwards. One of the questions that we get often though is, will dermaplaning increase the growth of the hair? Will it increase the thickness? And if the treatment is done just on vellus hairs, then no, it won't. Because if you're looking at a really thin hair, and sometimes I'll show people even with my hand, if you've got a really thin hair follicle that's thin from the very bottom to the very top, and you cut it off halfway, it's still thin. So as it comes up through the skin, it doesn't appear to be coarser or darker. If, however, you have a very coarse, dark terminal hair, and you cut it off halfway, it does appear to come up through the skin thicker. But with either method, there are no treatments that actually make the hair grow. The only thing that makes hair grow or change from a tiny vellus hair into a terminal hair is a hormonal shift. So sometimes puberty, sometimes, if a woman has PCOS, that can trigger testosterone, and that will increase hair growth. The other thing is, premenopausal, postmenopausal. That's a time where fine hairs turn into coarse hairs. So when it comes to PCOS, we do have a lot of women who are struggling with this. And, what happens is those hormone levels, specifically the androgens, so the male hormones like testosterone, are going up. And that triggers a change in those hair follicles. So those women typically start to experience, increased growth, increased thickness in the hair, and increased color in the hair. And a lot of gals that come in for laser hair removal, they don't realize maybe that their hormones are off. They just think that they're particularly hairy. Our physicians and our physicians' assistants can actually check your hormone levels to see where you're at. And there are medications that can be prescribed to drop the amount or the effect of the male hormones at the site of the hair follicles. And we can actually really help women decrease their hair growth, especially on their face. The next thing I'm going to talk about is waxing. So waxing has been, obviously popular over the years, as well as things like sugaring. And how those treatments work is the technician is applying that sticky substance to the surface of the skin. When it's removed, it pulls the hair out, okay? Now, people who do waxing, especially on the body, repetitively, eventually sometimes those hair follicles just get weakened due to that repetitive action. If the hair is really coarse and really dark, we don't recommend waxing. Sometimes you pull it out and it'll actually break. So waxing really does work the best for a finer hair, whether it's light in color or dark in color. The next thing I'm going to talk about is electrolysis. So electrolysis is kind of a dying art in the aesthetic industry. There's very few technicians out there that do it anymore. We do have Kristen on staff that does it for the chin area. So this is an area that, if those hairs are turning from fine vellus hairs into coarse terminal hairs, and they don't have color. So they're blonde, they're gray, sometimes even redheads. There's just not enough pigment in the hair for laser hair removal. Electrolysis is still a great option. So how electrolysis works is these very tiny, fine filaments, it's like a super fine needle, is actually inserted into the hair follicle, and then a source of electrical energy gets zapped in there, and it actually damages the ability for that hair to grow. So typically, you know, multiple treatments are required, especially because of hormonal changes. And I'll talk a little bit more about that with laser hair removal. But it does work, especially if, you know, if our patients have those light hairs. Now, last thing I'm going to talk about is laser hair removal. So laser hair removal has become so popular over the years. And how it works is the laser energy is delivered to the surface of the skin. The hair shaft, which has to have color, so the darker the better, the hair shaft actually pulls that source of energy in, and the energy damages the ability for that hair to reproduce. Now, what most people don't realize with hair growth is we're constantly going through different cycles of hair growth. So there's only a percentage of your hair present that's in the active growth phase. That's the only hairs that laser hair removal can have an impact on. You also have a percentage of hairs that are in a resting phase. There might be a hair there still, but it's almost ready to fall out anyways. The bulb is already dried up, so laser hair removal is not working on those follicles. You have to wait until those follicles go into a growth phase, which might be 2 or 3 months later. So just like electrolysis, multiple treatments are required. When it comes to laser hair removal, like I mentioned before, the darker the hair, the better. Areas like underarm and bikini respond beautifully because for most women, those hairs are coarse and dark. Leg hair does very, very well, especially if it's darker. And, you know, definitely on the face as well, if there's color. So laser hair removal is a definite big hit. You want to make sure that you're choosing a technician that has a ton of experience. Our laser hair removal technicians range from 8 years to 22 years experience. So you want to make sure you're getting somebody with experience. You also don't want to be doing laser hair removal if your skin is tanned. And the reason why is the pigment in your tan will also absorb that laser energy, and it increases the risk of, you know, overheating the skin. So light skin, dark hair, that's a home run for laser hair removal. Thanks so much for watching our video about hair removal. If you have questions that I didn't get to, again, please pop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And don't forget to leave us comments or questions down below so we can get to know you better.